Hey guys, what's happening? So we're back for yet another one of Marvel's Predator Versus series. And this is one that a lot of you guys have been excited for, myself included, because this time around we have the Predator versus Spider-Man. And just as a heads up, I got links in the description for all of our coverage on the different Marvel Predator Versus series, so you can either find more there, or you can hit the links posted at the end of the video. And with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so going into this, right away Benjamin Percy sets the stage for what type of jungle we're stepping into, with it being a blistering hot summer in New York. And I like how this is set up because it says here, summer claimed the city. Sunlight found every reflective surface and forced everyone to look at the world through a mean squint. Garbage cooked on street corners. Subway vents gasped out hot stale air. On sidewalks, on fire escapes, people sweated through their clothes, simmering in their own juices. Ew. The heat made the city cruel. And crime spiked with the thermometer. Robberies, assaults, murders. But this was different. This wasn't a bullet to the head or a knife to the gut. This was something new. Most of the time when there's a killing, it happens fast. This one had some time and care and even artistry put into it. So yeah, even with the temperature and the crime rate both going through the roof, this takes us to a crime scene that still stands head and shoulders above anything else that's been happening lately, with it being 3 skinned bodies hanging upside down. And as soon as we see this, we're introduced to Detective LaPearl, who's investigating the scene of the crime, along with the guy from forensics who's taking pictures and asking her all kinds of questions, like could it be drug related, stolen cash, or a neighborhood vigilante trying to clean up the block, because this building had been condemned for at least a year at this point. So she tells him he's thinking logically, but she's not about to do that because skinning people just isn't logical. And as far as she can tell, this wasn't a robbery, but something was stolen, with one victim missing a jaw, the other one missing a rib, and the last one missing a finger. So the forensics guy, he's like, what do you think that means? And as he's asking this, the dude looks out the window and he sees the forensics team pulling up. But Detective LaPearl, she answers his question because she tells him, I wish I knew. This Skinner's some kind of sick trophy hunter, but aside from that, with this guy asking a lot of questions and even at one point talking to the neighbors, the detective asked him what's that about, because that's her job. Like, forensics isn't supposed to be out here talking to people and asking questions and all that, so she tells the guy that's my job. But when she turns around, dude's gone. When the actual forensic team steps in, they're like, sorry, we're late, we're stuck in traffic, as usual. And that's when Detective LaPearl's like, wait, if you guys are forensics, then who have I been talking to? And that's where we find out that this fake forensics guy was Spider-Man the whole time, as we see him ditching his disguise and running off like, gotcha. And as soon as he leaves, he calls J. Jonah Jameson as Peter to let him know that he's got something. And it's really a situation where the Bugle's been struggling for a good story, so Jameson wants someone, anyone, to bring him something. So Peter goes on to tell him, and I mean, you know, with his phone webbed to his head, but Peter goes on to tell Jameson that he's got something for him. And Jameson's just like, this better be something, because last time Peter brought him something about a neighborhood puppy parade in Queens, and that's not what the Bugle needs, because Jameson tells him, I don't want good news, I want bad news. I want fear. Fear gets clicks, and clicks get ad revenue. And I mean, speaking of which, if you click that like button for your boy, I greatly appreciate it. And Jameson goes on to tell Peter how urgent this is, because he's like, you think it's hot outside? It's really freaking hot in here. Our feet are in the fire. This paper barely has a budget anymore. You're 5 canceled subscriptions away from losing your job, which is wild. So Peter tells him here, how about mass murder? And right there, Jameson's like, oh, you got photos? You better have photos. So Peter just tells him he'll be there in 5 because traffic's light the way he's coming. But as soon as Peter says that, he sees a robbery in progress, so he tells Jameson to make that 20 minutes. Because of course Peter's got to handle this before he makes his way to the Bugle. And I gotta say, it's funny how these robbers are wearing masks that look like aliens. And I mean, in more of a generic sense, but even still, I think it's a nice touch. But after seeing this, Peter goes after these guys, and he ends up making the decision that I'm sure most of us have made while playing the Insomniac Spider-Man games, where you're chasing down a vehicle and you're like, I'm gonna cut them off on the next block. You know, just to get that triangle to pop up sooner. But when Peter goes to the next block, he sees a group of kids playing around in the open hydrant with the getaway van heading right for them. So Peter quickly webs them all up and yanks the kids to safety, which as a result nearly allows the robbers to get away. But fortunately, these crooks weren't heading too far, so Peter's able to see the van head into a garage. But when we go inside and we see the robbers splitting up their take, one of these guys, who looks to be like the leader of the crew, he tells his guys to close the door, cut the engine, and move quick so they can split the cash, go their separate ways, to where after that, none of them communicate with each other for 2 weeks. But when he asks his guys if they understand, no one responds. And that's when he turns around to see that they're all dead. And I mean, these guys were picked off without a sound. So of course the crew leader draws his gun, but even still he's terrified and he's just like, look, hey, whoever you are, if you want to cut, let's work something out. Let's make a deal. Just before he sees two glowing eyes right over his shoulder. But before he can even react, this guy gets his face ripped off, only to then be impaled by the blade of a Yautja hunter. And I mean, at this point, there's really no question about it. This guy is done for. You can already tell by the blade and the silhouette that this was done by a predator. But I gotta say, in comparison to the other predators that we've seen in Marvel Comics since the Fox acquisition, this predator just might be the creepiest thus far. Cause it's not out of the norm to see a predator skin their victim and hang them up as a way of warning for the actual game that they're hunting. But there's just something about the way that this predator is just playing with the skin and holding it up in front of his face that just make it seem like he's one of those unconventional hunters who don't exactly go by all the rules of the Yautja. And he just might be a bit more sick and twisted than what we expected. And I mean, at least I hope, cause that would be fire. But after Spider-Man drops off the kids, he quickly heads over to the garage where he saw the van pull in, which is still open, so Peter just walks inside. And as soon as he does, he calls Jameson. And you know, Jameson, he's the type, when you call him, he's the first one to talk. So right away, Jameson's yelling at Peter about how he said he would have been there already, but Peter just lets him know what he saw earlier in reference to the mass murder. It wasn't an isolated incident. And that's where he tells Jameson they're dealing with a serial killer. As Peter sees the bodies of all those crooks, skinned, chained up, roped up, and all sorts of limbs missing. And so following this, Peter goes back to the Bugle, and we're told here the heat was like a living thing, a predator you had to fight to survive. Every AC unit in the city was cranked to the limit, every fan blasted on high. The grid could only take so much. And meanwhile, over at the Bugle, Jameson's telling Peter that the article isn't terrible, it just needs more dirty panic. Something with the you could be next tone to it. And I mean, we're not really told at this point if Peter's been writing for the paper or if he's just being pulled in because of the Bugle's financial state. All we really know is that Jameson's counting on Peter for more than just the pictures. But Peter responds to Jameson's suggestion, telling him, I disagree. I only feel okay about running this because I don't want it to happen to anyone else. I want people to be careful and vigilant, not scared. And right after that, the power goes out, which has Jonah losing it because they're trying to break this story, you know, and get that ad revenue. And right after we see this happen, next we jump over to MJ, who's riding the subway because she has an audition today, as we see her reading what looks to be a script for the play called A Streetcar Named Desire. And unfortunately, this is where she's at when the power goes out. So as you'd expect, a few people on the train are kind of freaking out. But then there's one lady in particular who's really losing it because she's claustrophobic. So for her, this situation's way more intense. And after seeing this, MJ heads over, she introduces herself, and she tries to help this young lady out by shining the light from her phone through the window to show the lady that there's plenty of space outside. So MJ tells her to focus on that. But as they're both looking through the window, they see something moving out there. So at first the assumption's like, oh, they just brought somebody out here to fix the tracks. Cause I mean, that's gotta be somebody with the transit crew. Or at least that's the thought until the predator steps up to the window, giving both of them a brand new phobia, free of charge. And it's wild cause it's set up like your classic jump scare. But following this, we head back over to Peter and Jonah, who are trying to figure out a way to get this article up as soon as possible. But Peter doesn't have a signal, so it's likely a majority of the people in the area who would try to read it online, they don't have a signal either. And it'll likely be days before everyone's back up and running. So Peter's like, you know what? Fire up the generator. And that's when he takes Jonah to the printing press and he tells him since the network's down, they need to go analog and sell papers. Actual papers. And man, this reminds me of when I was in high school, we had like a duplicator press, which is a smaller version of one of these in my graphic arts class. And we had to learn how to run these things. And mind you, when I was in high school, there's no such thing as an iPhone. So yeah, just telling that story makes my knees and my back hurt. But after getting all these papers printed, they hit the street corners and different public areas, and they do it old school. Because with no one having anything to click or swipe, the paper will at least offer them something to read in the meantime. Because even still, people are outside trying to stay cool however they can. And aside from that, others are just trying to pass the time. But it's also funny because Jonah's really trying to sell this dark twist along with the story. Because he's out here like, read all about it. The streets are going to be extra dark tonight because there's a serial killer on the loose. And he's charging $10 for the paper. And I mean, I'm not sure if that price is good or bad, but one of these guys is like, man, $10. So Jonah's just like, all right, give me $5. But while he's talking to this guy, someone else walks up and snatches the paper out of Jonah's hand. And come to find out, it's Detective LaPearl. And this is where she takes a look and sees that the photo credit is to Peter Parker. So she shakes down Jonah, telling him to either bring in Peter Parker for questioning or she'll arrest him. Which is basically how you would expect this to play out, especially Peter put his real name on the pictures. Like if there were any time for you to be using a pseudonym for your photography, bro, that was it. But during this time, we follow Peter, who's made his way to go check on MJ, because he knows it's going to be a long night for him, but even still, he wanted to stop in and see how her audition went. But there's no reply. And this is where we get a glimpse back down on the subway, where there's a scream and we see the same book or script that MJ was reading, For the play titled A Streetcar Named Desire, and it's covered in blood. And back up top, when we go to another employee selling papers from the Bugle, and this is an older guy, but we see him sell a paper for 10 bucks. And when he does, he continues soliciting and waving the paper while saying there's a predator on the loose. Don't be among the hunted. Read all about it. And when he does, a couple guys start eyeing him down like, I wonder how much money he got. So the both of these dudes run up and they try to rob him at gunpoint, only for an arrow to fly in out of nowhere and go right through one of these guys' hands, just before a shadowy figure jumps down from the rooftop in the alley and catches the other mugger with a headshot. Cause this dude ain't playing with these arrows, and as this stranger approaches, he tells the older guy who was selling the papers, you shouldn't be out here. You're not strong enough. This city can be a dangerous place, especially in the dark. And that's where we see that this stranger is Kraven, as he goes on to ask this nice gentleman to continue and tell him more about this predator. So yeah, not only has the predator made his way to Spider-Man's friendly neighborhood, but Kraven's also here too. And I don't know, it might just be me, but I got a feeling that this is gonna be this Kraven's last hunt. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, drop a like and let me know in the comments what you think about this new predator so far. And if you think Peter or Kraven even got a chance. Cause I gotta say, the combination of this crazy heat as well as the power being out, it might work to someone's advantage. But we'll see soon enough. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/DopeSpill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.